Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the 2020 edition of ColdFusion Summit. To start, I wish, hope and pray that all of you and your dear ones are doing safe and healthy. I'm excited to be here, especially just after the release of ColdFusion 2021. It's a phenomenal release and I hope all of you are taking it for a spin. This release is special as we deliver the release on time even when pandemic created so many roadblocks. Please join me in congratulating the product team for staying focused and shipping a version that sets the direction of ColdFusion for many years to come. A big thank you to our sponsors. Their continued support has motivated us all along to do better with each chapter of ColdFusion Summit. Fusion Reactor, the makers of Fusion Reactor, and a long-time resellers for ColdFusion. Media 3 and Hostak are our hosting partners. Cohelion, Lucid, TechVercent, TerraTech, Foundeo are our development partners. Mura is a CMS platform while Ortus Solution is an application development house. They also work with many open source tools. If you want, you can interact with our sponsors in the Sponsors Lounge. It's always exciting and humbling to see that each year this gathering keeps on expanding its size. We keep on setting a new record with each meet. Just to brag about some numbers, this event drew more than 5,000 registrations from over 2,000 enterprises. We have people in this gathering from over 140 countries. This cohort is made up of 78% very active ColdFusion developers and 22% of the attendees are decision makers for their respective organizations. These are indeed some numbers to be really proud of. I will miss the face-to-face discussions that I had with many of you over the last couple of years. And I'm sure we will figure out a good way to carry on with our conversations during this online event. Let's talk about ColdFusion and where it is today a little more. One of the success criteria for any commercial technology is the revenue numbers. This graph shows that we have been having success on that front as well year over year. By the way, this year's number, they are not complete as we have still more than 2 weeks to go in this year. As you can see, we have steadily increased our numbers from 2014 onwards. For a product in the market for as long as ColdFusion has been, these are really encouraging stats. This is also reflected in the number of licenses that we had sold over the years. This is motivating Adobe to invest in the future of ColdFusion even more. In general, ColdFusion carries a perception that it is an existing customer story, meaning we sell only to the existing customers, while no new customers are investing into ColdFusion. However, these numbers here would break that myth and tell a very different story. For a 25-year young product, what you see are really impressive numbers. The blue bar represents percentage of new customers with respect to the total number of customers that we sold to in that year. In this year, for every 100 accounts that we sold to, 41 are new customers. This is a rare achievement for any product in the market with a strong legacy of 25 years. It is not only the percentage of new customers, but also the bookings that are represented by these customers that are very encouraging. Thanks to all the developers, solution partners, and others in the ecosystem who have faith in the product and who have strongly advocated ColdFusion as a In my talk around a couple of years ago, I had presented this vision about ColdFusion to be the most modernized platform of choice for building cloud-native microservice applications with absolute focus on ease of use without getting locked to a particular cloud vendor, that is multi-cloud. I had also spoken about lots of background on why we think that this is the most compelling vision for ColdFusion. This is a long-term vision that will be realized over multiple releases in the coming years. And that is why the current release of ColdFusion 2021, is a really important release because this is the first step in that direction of this vision. This is the vision outline for ColdFusion. Without any doubt, the vision has to take advantage of core strengths of ColdFusion that are security, performance, and productivity. And it has to build up on microservices, cloud, and modernization. Team has worked really hard to deliver the first installment of this vision in the form of CF 2021. Let's talk more about the release and see what all exciting stuff is added in the release to fulfill this vision. How this release will accelerate the development in cloud. Though there are so many new features in this new release, I will still focus on these 4 areas to elaborate on how ColdFusion has evolved through this most recent release. These 4 areas are install and deploy, performance, security, and cloud. Installation and deployment is one of the key aspects around manageability in any enterprise technology. Ever since CF started shipping, focus was always on a monolith installer. Over multiple releases, the installer size grew to almost a gigabyte in size. Though it made ColdFusion much more feature-rich, it took away nimbleness that is required in today's agile environment. This is one of the first area we picked to modernize when we started working for ColdFusion 2021. The core installer was brought down to 150 MB in size, almost 15% of where it was. And if you're supplying your own JRE, you can squeeze it even further and it would just be around 100 MB. This is all done with the backbone of ColdFusion Package Manager. The Package Manager made the whole CF installation modular, from one monolith to 49 packages. These packages can be installed on need basis, and a code scanner gives you all the packages that your application will need. You do not need to install the packages that your code is not using. This modularization not only reduced the memory footprint drastically, but also gave a tremendous boost to startup time. Not just this, the update workflow is revamped to support this modularization. The updates now can be applied to each package individually, and you do not have to download a hefty updater to update your entire installation. ColdFusion 2021 has a configuration management tool called CF Setup that can be used to configure ColdFusion for the production applications, and it can be used to completely automate the ColdFusion deployment workflows. Since we are moving in the direction to support microservices and containers, it becomes evident to support the CI/CD ecosystem so that our customers can achieve 100% end-to-end workflow automation to avoid manual mistakes. We have added many tools like CF Install, CF PM, that is ColdFusion Package Manager, CF Setup, that will help you to integrate CF with your CI/CD pipelines. Performance. Performance has always been an integral part of ColdFusion release, and this release is no different in that regard. There is a 40% out-of-the-box improvement if you upgrade from ColdFusion 2016 to this version, along with 30% improvement in the CFM template compilation time. Language has many additions on this side, specifically support for parallel programming in array, struct, and query. PMT has been fortified with support for cloud features monitoring, NoSQL, database monitoring, CF thread, async thread monitoring. PMT has been made more maintainable with the configurability to delete the older data automatically. And there are various other enhancements on this side. Talking about PMT, I would like to bring on Brad Harding from UC Davis to hear their experience with PMT. UC Davis has been using ColdFusion from version 4 onwards, and they have built their entire student scheduling platform using ColdFusion. Over to you, Brad.
Hi, I'm Brad Harding, and I'm happy to have an opportunity to talk to you about what we've been doing with ColdFusion here at the University of California, Davis. We've been using ColdFusion at UC Davis for almost as long as it's been around, and over the last year, we've taken a big step forward by implementing ColdFusion 2018 and taking advantage of what it has to offer. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been leading application development and implementation teams and projects for over 20 years at the University of California, and I'm currently a manager within our Enterprise Student Applications group, where we develop and support applications in the areas of admissions, financial aid, registration, and student billing. And let me tell you a little bit about UC Davis. We're one of the 10 campuses of the UC system, and we're located in the town of Davis, California, just outside of Sacramento, the state capital. UC Davis was established in 1908 to teach farming, and in the 1950s became a full-fledged campus of the UC system. And today we offer over 100 undergraduate and graduate programs, and we have several professional schools. We've got a student body of 39,000, and we're proud to be ranked 11th among national public universities by U.S. News & World Report. UC Davis has a long history of using ColdFusion to support all kinds of business functions across the campus, including our current campus portal, which we call My UC Davis, which is used by students, faculty, and staff on a daily basis as their starting point for accessing all kinds of online campus resources. Students make up the majority of the My UC Davis users, and they use it to get their email, to communicate with advisors, and probably most importantly, to register for classes. It's the registration system that gets the most use and that I want to talk to you about today. Schedule Builder is the name of the registration system. It's built within the My UC Davis portal, and that's where students register for classes. It went live as a pilot several years ago, replacing an aging Web 1.0 registration system. Schedule Builder has a modern shopping cart model for registering in courses, and let students create and save multiple potential class schedules in advance, and then later register in them with a click of a button. Schedule Builder is responsive, so students can use it easily from their smartphones anytime, anywhere. Schedule Builder has been wildly popular with students, and usage has steadily increased with every academic term. Last year, Schedule Builder became a victim of its own success. During the busy periods at the beginning of the term, Schedule Builder's performance degraded, taking the whole My UC Davis portal down with it. For one day at the beginning of fall quarter 2019, we were seeing average response times in the 30 to 60 second range during peak registration. When that happened, we knew we had to do something. So late last fall, we initiated a two-part project. Part one was to upgrade My UC Davis and Schedule Builder from ColdFusion 11 to ColdFusion 2018. We hoped we might see performance improvements just by moving to the latest version of ColdFusion. But part two was to conduct load testing of the upgraded application. We knew that ColdFusion 2018 came with the new performance monitoring toolset, and we hoped to use it to find out what was causing our degradation. Let me just stop and say that I'm a big fan of the performance monitoring toolset, or the PMT as we call it. There are a lot of things I like about it. You can easily get basic metrics like average response time and throughput, and you can also find out about resource utilization of things like CPU, memory, and network. But then there's also more subtle metrics you can get like template queue size, which some of you may know about, and we learned a lot about because that was a problem for us, and other things as well. And you can drill down into specific URLs and queries in the PMT and see what's taking the longest to complete. So our upgrade from ColdFusion 11 to ColdFusion 2018 went smoothly, a lot like other ColdFusion upgrades we've done. And then for the load testing, we used AWS virtual servers, EC2 instances, for those of you who know about Amazon, running Apache JMeter to generate a high volume of transactions against our ColdFusion load test environment. We ramped up the load until the ColdFusion servers became unresponsive, and we watched the PMT in real time to see what was happening on the ColdFusion servers. The first thing we noticed in the PMT was request queuing, which meant that our simultaneous template setting was set too low. So we gradually increased it until we saw no more queuing. Once we did that and removed that bottleneck and ran another load test, we saw our CPU utilization pinned at 100%. We have our ColdFusion servers running in a virtual environment, so it's pretty straightforward for us to increase the CPU allocation, which we did. Those were the easy fixes. After that, we had to look a little harder to find the bottlenecks. We focused on the slowest URLs and slowest database queries, which are easy to find using the PMT, and we ended up rewriting some queries and eliminating others. The application performed much better in subsequent load tests. But we had our real test in production on the first day of fall quarter 2020, just a couple of months ago. The 30 to 60 second response times we were seeing the year before were now down to 5 seconds during peak load. I can tell you that I was very happy to report to my stakeholders and to my boss that my UC Davis and Schedule Builder had a great first day of fall quarter 2020 with no problems. And that's our story of ColdFusion 2018 and the performance monitoring toolset. I'd like to give a shout out to the Adobe ColdFusion development team who helped us out when we had questions about installing and configuring the PMT. It made a big difference to us, and we really appreciate you guys. Thank you. And thanks to Adobe for the opportunity to share our story with you all today.
ColdFusion is not only being used in large enterprises, but also helps startups to get up and running pretty quickly. One such interesting company is Cohelion. Cohelion develops and offers a self-service data integration platform for enterprises. Let's hear from Roland, founder of Cohelion, how they developed their own framework of tools with ColdFusion. They were kind enough to show a demo of Master Data Management Module, which is the core of any data integration solution. And this Master Data Management Module has been built using ColdFusion.
So at Cohelion, my software company, we're using ColdFusion for 20 years now. Personally, I'm actually using it even longer. I still have a floppy somewhere with ColdFusion 1.1 with a handwritten note from Jeremy Allaire on it. Like many of you, I started the company making complex web applications, connecting databases to the internet. No real focus other than things had to be complex and challenging. One of our first customers was Swissport. Back in, it's a giant company by now, operating over 300 airports worldwide. Back in 2004, they needed a dynamic website, as it was called back then. The IATA website is in the aviation industry as well. It had a big button at the bottom. It said built with ColdFusion. So Swissport needed a ColdFusion website. That part was clear. They started their professional vendor selection process, and alphabetical sort order. Our company starts with a C, so we're on the short list. And a few weeks later, we had Swissport as a customer. We're now quite a few years further. Some things have changed, some things have stayed the same. We're still using ColdFusion. We're still having Swissport as a customer. But on the other hand, I'm no longer coding, and we actually have a real focus by now. We have a SaaS platform, a data integration platform that helps big companies collecting all their data from all over the world. It could be financial data, it could be operational quality data. Companies like Swissport, but by now many others, are building their data backbone on our software. Following is a short demo that shows you the things that we've developed internally that make it easy for other developers to use some of the more advanced features of the core platform itself. I'd like to hand over to Brian. He will show you what we've developed. So Brian, go for it.
Thank you, Roland. I'll showcase a few building blocks of the Cohelion platform. Let's start with the database tool. It's a custom-made tool in ColdFusion, which inspects the database for certain objects. It generates full meta information of the database model in JSON. It consists of table structure, columns, keys, and relationships between tables. For example, a product with relation to the foreign key color, which is not mandatory, versus employee object with a foreign key relation to the company object, which is mandatory usually. It also creates a database access layer. These are objects with a set of classes that consist of certain actions and bulk actions that we can do for the database, and it can also represent a single record of a certain table. Basically, a simplification or different version of an ORM tool. So this is the source of the dimension hierarchy trees in the Cohelion platform. It allows generic screens for management user interfaces for various tables. The next building block I'd like to explain is the fact table plus dimension extraction layer. For the platform, a fact table is just database object, multiple foreign keys to dimensions, plus some multiple measures, performance measures, which are usually KPIs for certain companies. This is the core of the platform. The performance data is stored there and ready for usage for certain reports and etc. It has the following standard generic extraction, data manipulation, that is usually this save, copy, delete, etc. And data entry user interface, automated feed imports and manual data corrections, snapshots of the data, data quality information, and certain scenarios like actual data and forecasting and budgets, etc. Well, this is a quick walkthrough through our Cohelion platform. Roland, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. As you can see, some pretty cool stuff. One application where we use all this is in our master data management tool called MDM. Typically, it's very complex. We try to make it much more accessible for the ordinary user. Basically, it's an application that maps different variants of codes to one standard code set. It's essential in any data integration process, where you often see that different systems use their own codes for the same thing. Imagine a sales application that has a list of customers and codes, and a repair application that has its own list of customers and codes. Some customers probably exist in both systems, but it's complicated to map those together. Instead of maintaining spreadsheets with mapping tables, a more professional solution uses an MDM tool. Here you can see how you can create those mappings by simply dragging and dropping. For some companies, over 120,000 of these mapping rules are maintained, connecting over 70 applications. And it's all exposed via APIs, so it's accessible for any authorized application. We use all these techniques discussed before to keep this completely generic application running super fast. I hope you got some insights into how we approach our projects and why we're still happy with ColdFusion. If you have any questions about our approach, technologies, or application, feel free to reach out to me. If you're looking for some interesting CF development job, also feel free to reach out. Thank you.
We always consider ColdFusion to be the glue in the enterprise space because it could talk to various technologies. I always take great pride in the productivity benefits of using ColdFusion. If you have a business problem that needs quick turnaround, then CF is the technology you would want to use. It has always been like that for different organizations, and today we have Michael Brady, CIO of Market America, and Brian Sappe, Director of Architecture and Engineering for Market America, to discuss about their problem and how ColdFusion was able to assist them in solving it.
I'm Michael Brady, Chief Information Officer at Market America, Shop.com.
I'm Brian Sappe, Director of Architecture and Engineering, Market America and Shop.com.
Today we're going to talk to you about a business problem that we had to solve in a very short time and how we solved it using Adobe's ColdFusion. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Market America. Market America is a large corporation. We're in 8 countries. That adds complexity because we've got to support multi-languages. We've got a very big e-commerce platform that supports 50 customer-facing websites. Why 50? Because we've got a lot of verticals. We have health and nutrition, we have skincare, weight loss, cosmetics and beauty. We choose our technology for its resiliency, scalability, and uptime. And one of the key pieces of that technology stack is Adobe's ColdFusion. We use that for web services, for web development, as well as we use Adobe's API Manager. Now, one of the exciting things about our technology and our company really is that we host conventions twice a year. They're in-person events that people come from all around the world, are franchise owners who want to see new products, new services, and a lot of new technologies that we're developing and we're rolling out, and it's exciting for them to come and see. With COVID-19, that wasn't going to be possible. So we had a challenge. The challenge is, how do you take 20,000 people in a physical event and move that to a great online experience? Because it's not just sitting in an auditorium and watching speakers. This is a big event that we host. And Brian here is going to talk about how we took that challenge, used Adobe's technology, and made it happen.
Thank you, Michael. As Michael said, we were up against a pretty significant challenge. We were having to not only make sure that we enforce the integrity of the tickets, to make sure that the security would be in place and the technical problems that we could run into were all going to be mitigated in a quick fashion. You know, in typical sense, when we're dealing with APIs, there's nothing really overly complicated about them. The challenge on this particular one was we were dealing with a third party, it being Zoom, and we had to make sure that we could utilize Zoom's platform in the proper way to make sure that we didn't run into any other problems, say the day of the event. Maybe the tickets wouldn't work or people would not be able to authenticate. You know, Zoom as we know it, for most people, or they're getting on for meetings or for work or school, that's one of the basic use cases. For what we were trying to do, we were taking as Michael said, an on-site event and going completely online. So there were a lot of things that we had to be concerned about. Well, the backbone of that was ColdFusion. And ColdFusion wasn't the only mix in it. We had a number of different technologies that we utilized in order to make sure that this was a success. And not to mention, which I'll touch a little bit on, there was a lot of business intelligence as well. We knew that with the way things were trending with COVID, that there was a possibility that future events would also potentially be online. So in order to do that, you know, we want to make sure that we were making the best decisions possible. This was brand new for us. We had never gone into this space. Dealing with online events and ticketing was just not something that we were accustomed to. ColdFusion being the backbone of the language, we sprinkled in a few other technologies that we thought could help. We used NiFi, which was an ETL you know, for processing, for timing and sequencing. We could analyze data, we could alert on data, we could alert on problems. It was the heart and soul of controlling the ColdFusion applications that were firing behind the scenes. We used our API Manager, which is another product by Adobe, that allowed us to keep the health checks in place on all the Zoom APIs. We were dealing with a third party. Those throttle rates I had mentioned were serious concerns. The API Manager allowed us to monitor that effectively, make sure the health of the system was there, and also for a good accountability if there were issues that did arise that we could go back and take a look. We also used clickstream analysis. So we have you know, things that are monitoring the ticket site to make sure that we are, you know, staying healthy, that the people are not experiencing any technical issues, those front-end issues that can creep up on you and become a real headache for your customer, knock down that satisfaction and really put a damper on the ticket process. We knew we had to hit a home run with it. There was no choice. This is a major event for the company. We relied heavily on ColdFusion. It got the job done. We had a great success. And one other thing I should note too, there's another product by Adobe, which is the performance monitoring toolset. It played a vital role for helping to maintain the health of these servers. We had no idea what to expect. We knew that when we launched this, we had 20,000 tickets that needed to be assigned out and registered over with Zoom, and there needed to be good communication for the event. As Michael said, we had 13 different events inside of this one major conference, Each one of those links was unique to each user in each event. The possibility of errors and exceptions and other problems that could come up, it was a realistic issue that we were dealing with. So the PMT did some monitoring for us behind the scenes. It allowed us to monitor not only the health of the code, but also the health of the servers. And that allowed us that real-time analysis that at any moment, if anything were to go sideways and we'd start to encounter problems, we had the alerting in place. We were fixing it before anybody might potentially run into a bad customer experience, and that's what it was. And thankfully, it went off without a hitch. The event was tremendous. It was a very successful event. And I have to say that the technical pieces, major accomplishment for the company, for the team that worked on it. We had a lot of engineers involved, a lot of people hands-on, and it was a really successful event.
It was great.
Let's get back to talking more about ColdFusion 2021 release. I spoke about install, deploy features, and performance. Let's cover the remaining two topics about security and cloud. Security. Security by design is a key principle that is followed while building any new version of ColdFusion. Adobe has a group of highly efficient and talented security researchers who work closely with the product team during the entire development lifecycle. The reputed external vendors like Deloitte are also empaneled to do a rigorous testing of the product. These independent firms do an assessment for CF security and report issues on the versions being developed. And they continue even after the release. Product team comes out with regular security fixes for all potential vulnerabilities in the product. We have been very diligent on security via the frequent updates that we release for all the supported versions. In the product, we have built-in functions that can readily protect against the top 10 threats to web applications listed by OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project. Adobe is a corporate sponsor for OWASP, and we work very closely with them. Security Code Analyzer is one very unique and popular feature that does static code analysis to report potential vulnerabilities and remediation in your existing application code. On the functional security side, in this release, ColdFusion has added support for single sign-on over SAML 2. Now, CF applications can be configured with SSO systems to be compliant with organizations' security requirements like multi-factor authentication. Cloud. Cloud is the central theme for the vision. With CF 2021, we have given ways and means to access most useful cloud services in the CF code in a cloud agnostic way. By cloud agnostic, I mean some same code works on Azure and AWS. Almost like magic. Only the configuration needs to change. What this means is you are not logged into one single cloud provider when you use ColdFusion. The same code can be ported to another cloud with minimal changes on the configuration side. This release supports AWS and Azure cloud services for this functionality. On NoSQL support, along with AWS DynamoDB, ColdFusion now also supports MongoDB. And it does not matter whether MongoDB installation is on-premise or cloud vendor managed. MongoDB compliant databases like AWS DocumentDB or Azure Cosmos DB are also supported. On Cloud RDBMS, ColdFusion 2021 is certified with all the supported relational databases across AWS and Azure. Many other services like AWS Simple Notification Service, Simple Queuing Service, Simple Email Service, and Azure Service Bus are supported to create an enterprise cloud-first application. On the cloud storage, the support for AWS S3 is enhanced, while support for Azure Blob storage has been added. It's really a great feeling that we have come so far, but we have to do more work to realize the vision, and we understand it. So what's next? from here to where? We will continue to invest heavily on the cloud story for ColdFusion and add more to the multi-cloud capabilities. At present, the support is there for Azure and AWS. We will be exploring the ways to add the support for Google Cloud Platform. We will deliver more on the productivity aspect for multi-cloud. Imagine CF Builder or the new avatar of it as a VS Code add-in for CF. It will be able to analyze how much of your code is cloud agnostic and suggest ways to make it compliant. This will be a huge help in keeping your application from getting locked into a particular cloud vendor. For developer productivity, we will be adding emulators for the cloud services in the product. Developers will be able to write and test code as if they are doing it on cloud while all the time staying on their local machine. This, in my opinion, will also lower the barrier to entry in writing cloud applications. I will briefly touch upon the APIs and microservices. Microservices being the core architecture pattern of cloud and APIs being the core concept in microservices. It is hugely important how ColdFusion is treating these areas. To put it simply, we are focused on making these simpler than ever. On REST APIs, to reduce the development time, the required REST services can be auto-generated for individual entities, including the database interactions. All you will have to do is include the required business logic. ColdFusion already has a powerful API manager platform in place. With REST APIs and microservices being the focus of what we want to do, API manager also assumes a central role in our future story. We are looking at making all services getting easily exposed only via the API manager component, giving our developers the added advantage of security, monitoring, access control, and even testing those REST services. Our effort will be to make API Manager yet another ColdFusion package via ColdFusion Package Manager. That way, it can be invoked as and when required, rather than as a separate installer, which almost feels like a separate product. API Manager again has a crucial role to play in the future of microservices in ColdFusion. You will not have to worry about routing requests to the corresponding microservices anymore, as API Manager intelligently will take care of that based on the application that needs to be invoked. Configuration of microservices will be made easier in the future with the concept of a centralized configuration server. And of course, PMT will become microservices friendly, where it can easily track, report, and resolve performance issues of individual microservices. This slide sums up how ColdFusion has transformed over the releases. It is great to see how ColdFusion continues to deliver on the promise of making hard things easy. For so many releases, ColdFusion has innovated around this promise, and ColdFusion 2021 release is no different. I'm sure you will agree with me when you explore this new release. So, let me close this by bringing in the vision statement once again, and I hope by now you feel that we have made a great progress on this vision. In the previous slides, I spoke about many things that we will be doing in the future releases of ColdFusion. Let me just sum it up in a single slide along with expected timelines. The leftmost part is already delivered in the form of ColdFusion 2021. You can expect more functionalities in the coming year. In 2021, we will deliver a brand new avatar of ColdFusion Builder in the form of Visual Studio Code plugin, VS Code plugin. We will also have CF4 AWS Lambda and Azure functions. This will bring serverless computing to CF Universe. And beyond that, in year 2022, a major release codenamed Athena will be done to deliver some of the things that I spoke in previous slides about multi-cloud, microservices, and REST APIs. I will leave you with this slide. We are committed to invest on the future of ColdFusion. As you can see, there will be support for ColdFusion till 2028, and this will keep on getting refined as we progress with newer versions of ColdFusion in future. We are confident about this technology, and we will be your partner as you use it more and more. With this, I will end my talk. Thanks, and have a great learning in rest of the sessions of ColdFusion Summit 2020. Thank you.